Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Call Up, the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Prospect Show with your hosts, Marty Tallman and Cristian Crespo. Today, we are going to break down the Kansas City Royals. Hello, everyone, and man, do we have a great show for you today. Cristian and I are getting super lucky here with the guests. Today, we have another very special guest who not only covers baseball and the Kansas City Royals prospects, but he also talks about the mental side of baseball and, more importantly, the mental health in general. So it's amazing to have him. You can find his work at Major University, Prospects Live, and these Royals Farm. Jared Perkins, welcome to the show, buddy. How's it going?
Good. How are you all? Ready to talk some prospects? So excited.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. We're staying here in the AL Central. We're going to be moved to the Royals, and whoo, what a bunch, man. When I see the upcoming, few years for this team, I think everyone's, pretty much super excited. Jared, how do you overall see how the farm system's going, and how is that translating to the major league level?
Yeah, so I think the biggest transition for the Kansas City Royals was the hitters. I mean, you looked at it before 2021, the hitting was a question mark. There wasn't a big, huge bat prospect in the system. And so I think what happened was you looked at a recent article by The Athletic. They really put emphasis on developing their hitters. And they had guys like Drew Saylor who came in and kind of just changed the world in the minor league system there. And so it is awesome to see that you have now, like, everybody knew about Bobby Witt Jr., but MJ Melendez turned it around. You had Nick Pratto turn it around, and you have guys like Michael Massey and Vinnie Pasquantino all of a sudden that are just starting to pop. And a lot of those guys are going to make their debut come this season in 2022. So you're probably going to see Pratto at some point. You're probably going to see MJ Melendez. So yeah, I mean, if you're a Royals fan, you got to be very excited about where the Royals are right now.
Yeah, and just overall, even though it's a small market team, as a Tigers fan myself, I always look at the Royals and kind of look up to them. What you guys are able to consistently build. I'm excited for your new crop of arms that are coming up as well. Cristian, how do you overall feel about the system?
I mean, Jared hit it right on the head, what he said when it came to their hitters and just how it kind of took so long for them to, really build up from that part. Because you had, the homegrown talent of Eric Hosmers, Mike Moustakas, those guys that came up really made an impact, brought them a World Series. But then after that, they really haven't had much success with it. They've had Nicky Lopez, who's been a flash in the pan, Kyle Isbell, who has, a lot of potential. He's come up and shown some flashes as well. But this year, you're really going to see where all that hard work is really gone into, because the way that these guys have made an impact throughout the organization as they continue to develop has been really something fun to watch from a distance. I can't even imagine what it's like just being there and actually being able to experience it.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to go through these. So there's a lot of special guys here, and let's start off with potentially the number one prospect in all of the world here, Bobby Witt Jr., 21-year-old shortstop, was out of the 2019 draft, second overall in 2021, over 123 games, AA and AAA. He slashed 290. 361 with a 575 slug. Look at these numbers: 33 home runs, 97 RBIs, 29 stolen bases. I mean, I don't have words for what this guy might be able to do, but Jared, hopefully you can put it into perspective for me.
Man, there's times I don't even know if I can put it into words. I don't think the Royals have had a prospect like this in a very long time. I mean, I even think back to the days with Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas. They were highly touted, but they weren't as highly touted as Bobby Witt Jr. I mean, like you said, he hit 30-plus home runs, 29 stolen bases. He got to 30 with the playoffs. He had a stolen base, I believe, in the playoffs, which put him over into the 30-30 club. But you look at it, it's like 23% K rate. He's got a 9% walk rate. So you might want to see that come up a little bit. But he's got tools galore. I mean, that's a guy that he's gonna be your centerpiece potentially. I mean, you never know how prospects are going to pan out, like, as we all say, but he's a guy that you can really build your entire team around, and that's hard to find.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I mean, where he's doing at the shortstop position and the numbers that he's putting up and the expectations that are coming in for him are sky high. Cristian, how do you feel about your number one guy? Do I have to ask?
I don't even think you really need to say anything. I mean, everybody else says it for you, but it's just the power speed combination that he has combine that with the athletic ability, the fact that he's only striking out 23% of the time. You think of how the game has evolved now. You think 23%, I mean, guys are striking out 43% and they're still getting paid ridiculous amount of money. And, the 9% walk rate, of course, should climb up a little bit, but that's something that, he'll develop. He already has such a nice approach at the plate. He's very, very selective, not very selective, but he knows what he's good at. And what he does is, especially towards the later end of the year, a lot of things that I noticed was that he was focusing more on his weaknesses and making sure that he closed out the season, being able to improve on that and getting ready, to get into the playoffs. And I mean, he knows his call up is inevitable. Whatever happens with the CBA and all this stuff, he knows he's going to be in the big leagues this year, and rightfully so. He definitely deserves it. So now it's just going to be how he's able to transition all that and incorporate his game at the major league level.
Yeah, I remember around, a little bit a little bit before the season started, there was talk that he might have came up last year, So I definitely expect him for coming up for this season. Do you have any player comps, Cristian, for him?
He's Bobby Witt Jr.
Bam, bam. I love it.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to really compare. I mean, you could obviously throw out these huge names, but to put such lofty expectations on somebody that already has these expectations to him, I mean, putting a player comp on a prospect is incredibly difficult. Guys throw it around and, you see some comparisons and you see some similarities, but at the end of the day, they're going to be their own player and they're not going to fully, be this comparison. You get we're going to refer back to Jason Dominguez and everybody's saying he's Mickey Mantle and all this stuff. If he comes up and he's Mickey Mantle, then okay, but come on.
All right, couldn't have said it better myself. Let's go on to the number 2 guy, MJ Melendez, 23-year-old catcher out of the 2017 draft. He went 52nd overall and signed a $2.1 million signing bonus. In 2021, over 123 games at both AA and AAA, he slashed 288, 386, and 625 with his 41 home runs, 103 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. I mean, you can just hear it in my voice. These numbers are absolutely incredible. Jared, where does Melendez rank for you, and where do you see him, and when is he coming up?
Yeah, so on my list, I had him number 2 right behind Bobby Witt Jr. It's what he's done to transform his swing and to kind of develop that power that everybody kind of knew was there, and now he's finally kind of broken into his own, and he improved on the hit tool a little bit as well, and it's just awesome to see for him. The one thing that kind of stood out to me when Royals Farm reported their rankings, that they put a list together of 22-year-olds that had a wins run created plus over the last 8 years, and he's up there with Yordan Alvarez, Eloy Jimenez, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. And so I have a lot of people who I see a lot of people who are kind of down on him because he's a catcher, but he played some games at third base. You got Salvador Perez in Kansas City. There's a chance he could move off position. I mean, they're going to keep trying to develop him as a catcher, especially given Salvador's age and his potential to have to move off that position at some point. But they're going to find a spot for him somewhere, I believe. I don't see how you don't try to find an option for him in the lineup. I assume he starts in AAA this year, but he's going to make his debut, I believe.
Do you see an ETA for him to come up to 2022?
Yeah, I could see it definitely, probably mid-season, June. But if he starts crushing the first couple of months, they might have no choice but to get him up there.
Yeah. What about you, Cristian? How do you see him long-term? Do you see him as a catcher, and how do you project him?
I mean, he's really impressive when it comes to his blocking and receiving. He's an athletic catcher, and that's perfect for that position. Salvador Perez is getting older, and he's gonna play more DH, and that he's gonna find his way into the lineup. And the biggest thing that that kind of led to his improvement was early when he first got into the Royals system, he was kind of out of whack with his upper lower body. They weren't really sunk up together well. So he was striking out nearly like 40% of the time. And
Yeah.
so when they finally worked with him and, they got him back and in sync and ready to go, and I mean, you saw those numbers, what he was able to do when he finally got it. But yeah, this is kind of like a Blue Jays situation with their catchers and with Gabriel Moreno and Alejandro Kirk and these guys. Gabriel Moreno is playing third base in the minor leagues too, just because they want to find ways to get him into the lineup. And they're going to do the same thing with MJ Melendez. I mean, can you really count on more than 20 games a year from Adalberto Mondesi?
Yeah.
Let's
So
be
far,
real here.
not
Bobby
yet.
Witt's going to be at short. Witt and Nicky Lopez are going to play second base, play the outfield, and now first base that's future Pratto, Pasquantino. Maybe Salvi gets a couple of games there at first base. I doubt it because but they're going to find a way to put him in, and that's the reason why. I mean, same thing with the guy we're going to talk about upcoming soon. I mean, Pasquantino, they've been playing him in the outfield just to get him some reps to try to get him, find ways. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep finding ways to get these guys in there because they're making an impact, and you can't hide them in the minor leagues forever.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like it's an embarrassment of riches over there. All right, let's look at your number 3 guy, Nick Pratto, 23-year-old first baseman out of the 2017 draft. He was 14th overall, and in 2021, over 124 games at AA and AAA, slashed 265, 385, 602 with 36 home runs, 98 RBIs, and 12 stolen bases, doing a little bit of it all. I actually just took him in the ITL mock in the 3rd round, so I'm all up. I love Nick Pratto. Jared, where does he rank for you? And hey, I just these guys are so good. I can't. It's crazy.
It's when I was putting my rankings together for this team, it was a struggle because you're like
it's like 1A, 1B, 1C.
Yeah,
right.
Well, no,
you could
it's
easily
1,
flip guys.
2A, 2B, 2C.
Yep, you could easily flip guys from one spot to the next, and so I slid him in at number 4. And there's some concerns I have with the second half that he had in AAA. The numbers kind of dipped a little bit. The strikeout rate was a little higher than I expected, but I mean, he's really turned his hit tool around from what it was. I think he might have been close to what MJ Melendez was, near 40% when he was having those struggles in 2019. And the thing that I think people tend to forget about in fantasy baseball is that, yes, defense doesn't really matter, but it does when it comes to playing time. And so if you're going to get a guy to play, they got to be good defensively. And Nick Pratto is unbelievably good defensively. And the thing that I would hit on is I think he's going to be potentially better than Eric Hosmer was defensively. I just look at the underlying metrics and things like that. He's just so good at first.
Yeah, he is. I know he just won essentially their Golden Glove, version, for him. Cristian, tell me about Pratto.
I mean, Jared said it perfectly. He's Eric Hosmer.
Yeah.
Same, he's not going to hit for an incredible average. He's going to get you those home runs, but he's going to play elite defense at first base. It's crazy. And, Jared's also said it, towards the end of the year, he struggled with strikeouts. But that's because I saw a lot of spray charts and some videos that he just really opened up and tried to really crush the ball towards the end of the year. And that's what really, drove his batting average down too. But he shot out of the gate, all systems go at the beginning of the season. And that's what built up so much hype around him. And, like I said, just kind of hit that. You could kind of say fatigue the second half of the year. All these guys coming off a shortened year where they didn't really get to play, and a lot of guys towards the end of the year kind of just got tired. And you saw it in his swing. He was trying really hard, out of whack, just wasn't in sync anymore. But yeah, he's gonna be he's gonna be the Royals' first baseman for a long time.
Yeah, and at the level that he's currently at, when you do see a player open up more and do take more, bigger swings and everything like that, do you think that's driven by him, or do you think that's think the coaching staff leading to that?
No, I don't think the coaching staff is not going to tell a player to be extra aggressive. These guys are going up there with an approach that they know is going to help benefit them in the long run. And that's the job of these coaches. The coaches are there to help these guys progress through the system, not to win a ball game. Not to go up there and swing out of their shoes to try to drive in a run to win a game. yeah, winning is fun, but at the end of the day, the minor leagues, it's all about developing your players to get them to the big league so that they could win at the big league level.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to number 4, Vinnie Pasquantino, 24-year-old first baseman out of the 2019 draft. Went 319th overall. In 2021, over 116 games at high A and double A. He slashed 300, 394, 563, 24 bombs, 84 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, a little bit of it all. Jared, break down Vinnie for me.
Yeah, so I love that you have him at number 4.
Yeah, I'm aggressive with him, and there's a reason why.
No, so I had him at number 5. It's just the bat is so good, and I mean it is unbelievably good. And the biggest comp that I see for him is Kendrys Morales as that type of hitter, and I can see that just based on his size. The thing is, he's not as good as Pratto defensively, but everybody sees that and they're like, oh, he's bad at defensively. No, he's an above average defender, so he's not terrible at first base.
It's tough to compare.
Yeah, and so the thing is, again, he's going to struggle for a position, but when you see a guy who has as many walks as he did strikeouts, I think this year, it's
even 1-to-1.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I can't remember what his strikeout percentage was, but it was extremely low. And I mean, he's just going to be a guy who goes out and mashes. There was some current concerns with his performance in winter ball, I believe, down in the Dominican League. I think he was in the Dominican Summer or the Dominican Winter League this year.
Yeah.
So there's some concerns about that. But I mean, he's going to probably start the year in Double A potentially because Pratto will still be in Triple A. But he'll be in Triple A probably by midseason. I mean, he's just another guy that just mashes for them.
Yeah, and I see on the Royals farm report, he's number 7th in your consensus ranking. So it probably maybe it was the Dominican Winter League that pushed him back a little bit there. But what do you see here, Cristian?
I see somebody that has elite bat to ball skills, and my comparison to him is a lefty Justin Turner. Somebody that's able to really put the bat on the ball just consistently, a low strikeout rate, really good approach at the plate. He's going to be able to hit for high average, hit you around 25 home runs a year, just consistently play. I mean, he adapts so well in the box and makes adjustments so quickly to tough pitches just to battle at the plate. And that's the biggest thing about him. He's going to go up there and he's going to compete every pitch. Not every at bat. He's going to go up there with a plan on how to execute every pitch, and that's huge. I mean, and there are a lot of people that say that the Royals internally are higher on him than they are Pratto. I mean, it's an 11th round pick to produce the way he's been producing and developing at the pace that he's developing. They did not. I don't think they expected this from him. And now to have him and Pratto essentially growing at the same rate, it's going to be tough at the major league level to try to find a spot for all of them. But I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have, and maybe we'll have another Kansas City Royals all-star filled game like we did. What year was that? 2016, where like every single player,
single person,
every guy
was starting.
Yeah, it's not impossible for that to happen again. And this is the big arm that I'm super excited for, Asa Lacy. So out of the 2020 draft, he went 4th overall. He signed a big signing bonus, $6.67 million over the 2021 season. Over the 14 games at high A, he pitched 52 innings. He had a 5.19 ERA, a 1.58 WHIP, 79 Ks with 41 base on balls. Jared, break down Lacy for me.
Yeah, so I put him at number 3 in my personal rankings that went into the Royals farm report once.
Yep, and he's overall 3rd as a consensus. Yep.
Yeah, he was a tale of two stories in high A. You look at the 33% strikeout rate, and then you see the 17.5%, I think, walk rate that he had that year. He dealt with a lot of injuries too. The good news that seems to be coming out now is that he's healthy.
I saw your Twitter. I saw you retweeted it. Yep.
Yeah. And so he went into the Arizona Fall League. I think his first start, he went 2 innings, struck out 5 or 6 guys. I mean, the stuff is elite. But as we all know, the big question is the command, the control. Can he kind of hone that in to get to a point where he can be a top line starter? If he can, he's going to be an ace. I mean, he's going to live up to his name, Asa Lacy. So it's one of those things where you got to look at the Arizona. I think you'd have to take in consideration the Arizona Fall League. He touched 100 too, which was huge for him. But again, there's going to be those concerns there, so I understand why people might be a little bit lower on him.
Mm-hmm. Cristian, he's your number 5 guy. What do you see for him?
He has probably the best 4-pitch mix in all of the minor leagues. He had arguably the best raw stuff coming out of the draft. I mean, there's a reason why the Royals took him, 4th overall?
4th overall in front of Emerson Hancock, in front of
There's a reason, and it's because he's flashed so much potential, but he's just, I mean, he was so erratic. He was throwing his fastball 70% of the time just because he couldn't command any of his secondary pitches. I mean, you saw his whip was near 1.6.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that kind of reminds me of an early Blake Snell, where Blake Snell flashed all the, fastball, curveball, changeup to pair off of a very good a curveball, slider, changeup to pair off of a very good fastball, but he just had no control over any of it. And, you saw him, the Rays worked hard with him that offseason, brought him back and he won Cy Young. And, he's able to make those adjustments now. This past season, Blake Snell started off struggling, but ended off really strong because he went back to what he knew would help him. And it's going to be the same thing for Lacy. I mean, the talent is there. There's no way he's not going to be able to find it. He's super young. You don't find many pitchers at his age, lefty especially, that have the skills that he has.
Where do you see as far as an ETA for him?
I'd say safely like mid-season 2023, maybe late 2023. Is
that what you're thinking, Jared?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, unless he really explodes this year, then I would say, especially with the depth of the Royals pitching, the prospects.
That's another thing with Bubic and Singer and these guys. Like they
called up
Kowar. Jackson Kowar. I mean, he'll find it too. That's another big arm in the system. But they went so pitching heavy recently in drafts, and all of them just basically came up at the same time, which is incredible. But I mean, they drafted college arms. So they're up and ready to go, and now you're going to slowly see these guys rise up too. And you never know. It's like we've been saying throughout this series for this division. I mean, this division is going to be fun.
AL
There's
Central's
a lot of young guys coming up.
All right, well, let's round out your top 10 here, Cristian, with number 6, Eric Pena, who you see pictured here. Number 7, Frank Mozzicato. 8, Junior Marin. 9, Michael Massey. And 10, Kyle Isbell. Feel free to pick one or two of these guys that you love, or maybe you don't love for certain reasons, whichever it is. I'm going to start with you, Cristian. Who do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Eric Pena. And the reason why I have him at 6, is because during his signing period, I actually worked in international operations during the time. So I got to see a lot of film, prior to him signing. I got to see a lot of reports, and the reports on him coming out were incredible. The hype, or not hype, but justifiably so. He has so much talent, but he's just very raw. And, you saw that this year. I mean, he didn't really produce. He hit 161 in 40 rookie level games this year. It's tough. But I mean, his projections, like you see all these different reports and all the different scouting reports on him, and his future projections are actually above average, almost across the board. And people still believe in him. And, I'm one of those people too. And obviously I haven't seen him in person, but at 18 years old, to have the skill set that he has, I'm a believer in him, and I think that he'll find his way, back. Because you think about it, he recently signed. He got 1 year in professional ball. A lot of international players, all international players, they don't really play organized competitive baseball until they sign with the teams. So all these guys getting big money, and they have all these lofty expectations already as 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids, and they're put in these situations, and it's an adjustment period. And so he was adjusting and getting ready to it. And I'm going to say it again, COVID came, and they lost that, especially somebody this young. You see a lot of the international guys, that struggled across the league in the minor leagues this year that really took a shot and took a dip in their value because of it. And so I think that him actually getting, and they continue to play him. And that's the biggest thing, making sure he goes in, gets his lumps, and works through them. And I think he has the talent to break through it.
What do you see him as an ETA? I know he's young, but what are you thinking?
Like 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and Jared, I was looking at the Royals Farm report. So you, at the consensus rankings, have Pena number 12. Where does he rank for you personally, and what do you see for him?
Yeah, so I had him right at the bottom of my top 10. So number 10. It's hard because a lot of the rankings that I put together in Royals Farm Report were put together too. It's kind of based on real life too, so it takes in defense and things like that.
Absolutely, yep.
So I think that's the one caveat. If any fantasy players are looking at Royals Farm Report rankings for prospects, just remember that there are some caveats there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like Cristian kind of hit it on the head. He's got tools galore. And I mean, he's just very raw. You think about a guy like Hedbert Perez too. That's another guy that's got all the tools in the world, and he's still trying to figure it out. And he kind of struggled with that adjustment to low A. He had a pretty high strikeout rate and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be the big thing for Pena. He's probably going to start in the complex league again next year, given his age. I think he's only going to be 19 years old. He might go to low A, but I doubt they push him. So I think he's just a guy that's people are going to have to be patient with. And if you own him in leagues, it might be a few years before you see him have an impact on your team. So if he's a guy that you're willing to just kind of stash along, I'd go for it. And you got the time to do it.
He might be one of those guys, though. Like there's Robert Poisson with Oakland, another guy that, very highly ranked going into the season, but he struggled mightily this past year with Oakland. And, they didn't demote him or nothing. They let him play through it. And it's another one. You just got to let him do it. And, they're either going to catch on and work through it or they're not. But the tools are there. And that's not something you see with a lot of these guys. And, that's why I'm an aggressive ranker.
I love it. And Jared, is there anyone in the top 10 that we haven't talked about yet that you want to touch on?
Yeah, the one I want to hit on is Michael Massey, because I covered High A Central last year, and he played there the entire year. Basically, the reason he played there the entire year is that there's just so many middle infield prospects in the Royals organization, outside of Bobby Witt Jr. as well, that there wasn't anywhere for him to go up.
Yep.
So he is a guy that just absolutely mashes. And he hit out of 14.5 strikeout rate, so he's very good in the box and has a good plate discipline as well. The numbers that kind of always stuck out to me, he was third in home runs, second in batting average, second in RBIs, second in OPS, second in slug, and third in weighted runs created plus. And the only guy he was behind in most of those categories was Andy Pages of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so everybody's got him in the top 100, but Massey kind of gets overlooked. And I see a lot of stories that say that they just don't believe in his skill set. But it's like, I understand to an extent, because high A pitching wasn't the best. So there is that caveat. They started to get the better arms started to trickle in later in the year when like Yuri Perez and Dax Fulton and guys like that got called up. But his numbers are just so consistent across the board. And before even in this season, he was dealing with an injury as well, and he finally got to play his first full season. So the big thing is he's delayed because of COVID, because of an injury, and so he's a little bit older for high A. But there's a lot of guys. Well, I think he's 24.
Okay.
He might be 23 going on 24 next year. But he's just, it's hard because a lot of guys in high A were older for the position due to the COVID year and those kind of things. But it's just hard to overlook his numbers. And again, I go back to defense as well. He's a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. I think he won the minor league Gold Glove award at second base as well. So he's a guy that is going to stick at second base. He has the ability to play at the big league level at second base, and I think he could be a big league regular.
Yeah, I mean, the top 10 and even like the top 20 prospects in this farm system is absolutely incredible. Jared, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Please plug everything and anything that you do and tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on at Jared CP1 on Twitter. But yeah, you can find most of my writing at Major League University. Do some podcasting there where we just interview athletes and they kind of talk about the human side of the game.
It's powerful.
Powerful
stuff.
it's awesome to have
important.
those guys on and share their stories. So it's been cool to do that. Then articles and some prospect reports with Prospects Live, and then anything Royals related in Royals Prospects with the Royals Farm Report.
All right, there you go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much again for joining us here on the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. As always, you can find me at Marty_Tallman and Cristian at _26. Please comment, like, subscribe, all of that great stuff. We're going to continue. Cristian, who's our next? Who do we got next? Are we done with the AL
Finishing
Central?
off, no, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yes, we got to get David Mendelson on here. And yes, thanks again. All right. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.